Hey there, warrior. Let me take a guess. It seems like you've been feeling a bit overwhelmed lately. Perhaps your thoughts are racing at night, leaving you lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that went wrong, fearing what might go wrong, and wishing for control over it all. You try to quiet your mind. You even attempt those deep breaths everyone talks about. But that tightening in your chest, that uneasy feeling in your stomach, it just won't fade away. The stress, the uncertainty, the fear, they linger like uninvited guests at a party you never intended to host. And during the day, you manage to smile. You even laugh. You say, "I'm fine," because you've become skilled at donning that mask. But beneath the surface, there's a silent battle raging within you, and it's draining. You're not broken. You're simply human. Many of us are bearing far more than we let on. We're concerned about finances, relationships, our self-worth, the future, and how others perceive us. We attempt to meticulously plan every aspect and control every possible outcome, yet it often feels insufficient. So, what can we do about it? Here's a thought you might not anticipate. What if the solution to our anxieties doesn't lie in a new productivity tool or a therapist's guidance, though those are certainly beneficial, but in ancient wisdom that dates back over 2,000 years? I'm referring to Stoicism, a philosophy that has been embraced by emperors, soldiers, slaves, and scholars alike. Its relevance persists today because human nature remains unchanged. Just as in the past, when life was fraught with unpredictability, people dealt with wars, betrayals, sickness, and heartbreak. They couldn't control the surrounding. This conversation aims to introduce you to 8 Stoic habits designed to alleviate your worries, not just temporarily or through distraction, but at a profound inner level. These are not mere quick fixes or gimmicks. They're shifts in mindset and essential tools for cultivating inner peace amid a chaotic world. And rest assured, there's no need to crack open a single philosophy textbook. Everything presented here will be practical, straightforward, and applicable. Whether you're a student, a parent, an entrepreneur, or simply someone striving to navigate daily life, you'll find something valuable here. Before we get started, let me share a brief story. A few years back, I felt trapped, completely overwhelmed. I was constantly attached to my phone, checking notifications 80 times a day, refreshing emails as if they were golden tickets, seeking validation, and caught in a cycle of overthinking. I convinced myself that worrying was a sign of responsibility, that it helped me stay alert. In reality, it revealed my lack of trust in myself. One night, I came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who wrote through times of war and plague. It stated, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That struck me powerfully. I had spent years trying to control things beyond my reach while neglecting to master my own mind. That was the turning point. I began reading more, adopting Stoic practices, and rethinking my approach to stress. And you know what? You don't have to turn your entire life upside down to discover peace. It's all about shifting your perspective. That's precisely what these 8 habits will help you achieve. We walk through each in turn. You'll get quotes from actual Stoic philosophers. You will see how these behaviors are working for real people today, not just dusty philosophers absent from old books. So just breathe with me now. It is not weak to worry. It doesn't mean you are broken to feel anxious. But you are powerful, however, to influence how you react. And that is what we're about to do together. Do me a favor. Now, if these words already feel right to you, go ahead and whisper them to yourself. I choose peace over control. Stop for a moment and let that sink in. All right, let's begin. Number 1, practice the control test. Have you ever noticed how much time we spend stressing over things we can't do a single thing about? The weather, what people think about us, the mistakes we made last year, the economy, that text message someone hasn't replied to. It's almost funny if you think about it, like yelling at the clouds to stop raining. We've all done it. And the more we focus on these untouchable things, the more helpless we feel, like someone keeps turning down the volume on our inner strength. This is exactly where one of the simplest yet most powerful Stoic tools comes into play: the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, that great old philosopher who lived a couple thousand years ago, put it perfectly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But hidden inside those words is the secret to real peace of mind. The Stoics saw life as 2 buckets. Bucket 1, things you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your reactions, your values. Bucket 2, things you cannot control: other people's choices, outcomes, your past, and honestly, most of the future. Here's where most people mess up. They dump about 90% of their energy into bucket 2. They stress about the economy instead of sharpening their own skills. They lose sleep over what someone said instead of deciding how they'll respond. They replay mistakes in their head rather than choosing how to grow from them. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, burned out, powerless.
But a Stoic? A Stoic flips that around. When criticized, he doesn't waste time trying to rewrite someone else's opinion. He focuses on his response. When uncertainty comes, he doesn't try to predict every outcome. He prepares his own mind to handle any outcome. When betrayed, he doesn't drown in pain. He works to keep his own character clean. This is the control test. It's a habit you can start building today. With every worry, every frustration, every thought that spins through your head, pause and ask, is this inside my control? If the answer is no, release it. Imagine it like a stone in your hand. Just drop it into the ocean and let it sink. If the answer is yes, focus only on what you can do. Let's make it real. Someone insults you online. Can you control their words? Nope. Can you control whether you stoop to their level or stay composed? Absolutely. You don't give them your peace, you protect it. You didn't get the job you wanted. Can you control the decision? Nope. Can you improve your skills and try again? Yes. That's where your energy goes. When you start living like this, something incredible happens. You become mentally lean, emotionally efficient, spiritually strong. You stop throwing energy at brick walls. You start pouring it into windows, places where light can actually get in. Slowly, worry begins to die. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because your mind becomes stronger. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Those aren't just words to read, they're words to live. Let this be your anchor today. Drop this affirmation somewhere you'll see it. I control my actions, not the world. Number 2, choose voluntary discomfort. Here's a strange paradox. One of the best ways to stop worrying about the future is to deliberately practice discomfort right now. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? We spend most of our lives trying to make things easier, softer, more convenient. But here's the secret. When you train yourself to be okay with discomfort, you stop being afraid of it. If you're not afraid of being uncomfortable, then the future loses most of its power to intimidate you. Seneca, one of the wealthiest Stoics of his time, had everything he could ever want. Yet he often chose to live for a few days as if he had nothing. He would sleep on the floor, eat the simplest food, and wear rough clothes. Why would a man of such wealth and influence do something like that? Because he wanted to look discomfort in the eye and ask, "Is this really what I feared?" He said, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Seneca knew something profound. If you can handle voluntary hardship, then involuntary hardship won't break you. Worry comes from pain you've never met before, but if you've trained yourself to sit with discomfort, hunger, rejection, failure, cold, fatigue, you stop seeing these things as monsters.
This isn't about punishing yourself. It's about preparing yourself. Here's how you can try it in small daily ways. Skip a meal and notice that you're still strong without it. Take a cold shower and remind yourself that you can handle a little shock. Say no to a small indulgence, not because it's bad, but because it's training your willpower. Wake up early, even when every part of you wants to stay under the blanket. Do the hard thing first instead of putting it off. Each time you do this, you're proving one powerful truth. You are stronger than your comfort zone. And once you know that, worry weakens. Because life will bring storms, there's no escaping that. But if you practiced walking in the rain, you won't panic when the clouds open up. Here's the deeper beauty of this habit. When you stop chasing comfort at all costs, you stop fearing discomfort altogether, and that is freedom. A Stoic isn't trying to create a life with no problems. They're creating a mind that can face any problem. The storms don't get lighter, but you get stronger. Challenge yourself. Disrupt your comfort a little. Live harder today so you can live freer tomorrow. When you stop fearing discomfort, you stop fearing life. The next time something uncertain is coming your way, you'll meet it with steady hands and a calm heart, because you'll know, I've been uncomfortable before, and I can handle it again. If you're walking through a storm right now, tell yourself this: I grow stronger through challenge. Let that become the voice in your head louder than fear. Every time you choose discomfort on purpose, you're rehearsing for real life and proving to yourself you're far tougher than you once believed. Number 3, stay present. Don't let the future steal today. Think about how much time you've spent worrying about things that never even happened. Most of what weighs you down isn't what's happening right now. It's the endless parade of what-ifs that live in your mind. You worry about what could go wrong next week, next month, or next year. You imagine getting sick, losing your job, being rejected, failing at something you care about. But pause for just a second. Right now, this very moment, you're breathing. You're alive. You're safe. This moment isn't crushing you. Your thoughts about the future are. The Stoics understood this long before the word anxiety was even coined. They believed one of the most healing habits you could ever build is presence, the simple act of returning to now over and over, no matter how much your mind tries to run away. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Think about that for a second. Not the past, not the future, just this moment, right here. He also said, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which arm you today. That's a powerful reminder. Real strength doesn't come from trying to predict every storm. It comes from knowing you can meet whatever arrives with calmness and courage, when it actually arrives, not 100 times in your imagination. The truth is simple, even if it's not always easy to remember. The past is already gone. You can't edit it, you can't replay it. The future isn't here yet. It's not yours to live in, at least not today. The only thing you ever truly own is this moment. Worry tricks you into living in a time that doesn't even exist. It hijacks your peace and convinces you to suffer twice, once in your imagination and maybe again if the thing actually happens. But if you train yourself to return to the present again and again, you take your power back. Here's how to make this practical, not just poetic. Keep asking yourself throughout the day, where am I right now? Am I here or am I lost in what ifs? This isn't a question for your GPS, it's a question for your soul. If you feel worry starting to creep in, pull yourself back into your body. Feel the ground under your feet. Hear the small sounds around you, a bird, a passing car, your own breath. Focus on that breath like it's the only thing that matters. Build these micro moments of awareness into your day. When you drink tea, actually taste it. When you're walking, feel your steps instead of racing through your to-do list in your head. When you're talking to someone, be with them, not somewhere 3 hours ahead or 3 days ahead. This isn't just a mental trick, it's a spiritual weapon, because when you live fully in the moment, anxiety doesn't have any room to grow. Right now, there's no disaster. Right now, there's no enemy at your door. Right now, there is only now, and it is enough. Stoicism doesn't pretend bad things will never happen. It doesn't ask you to live in denial. It simply trains you to meet every challenge when it actually shows up, not to fight shadows in advance. The more you practice this, the less space worry has to take root in your heart. Let this become your mantra. Right now is enough. Because in this moment, you are alive, and being alive is already power. It means you still have strength, you still have choices, and you still have today. Write this down if you're tired of letting the past haunt you and the future scare you. I live fully in the present. Let that sink in every morning until it becomes a habit, until your heart stops running miles ahead of your feet. Number 4, amor fati, love fate, not just accept it. Let me ask you something deeply honest. How much of your stress comes from resisting reality? You didn't want that breakup. You didn't want that opportunity to slip away. You didn't want that bad news. So what happens? You fight the truth. You replay it over and over. You wish things were different. And slowly, that resistance turns into worry, sadness, even bitterness. The Stoics had a radical antidote to this. Amor fati, which means love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but learning to embrace it as your path, not as punishment, but as purpose. Friedrich Nietzsche, inspired by Stoicism, put it this way: my formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. That sounds impossible, right? How can anyone love something painful? But amor fati isn't about liking pain. It's about realizing pain can shape you. It's about saying, this happened. I can't change it, but I will use it. You didn't choose that breakup, but maybe it will teach you how to stand on your 2 feet. You didn't choose that failure, but maybe it will teach you humility and persistence. The Stoics believed that everything, even tragedy, could be turned into fuel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That problem, it's not blocking your path. It is the path. That detour, it's not a mistake. It's the real direction. When you start living this way, you stop clinging to how things should have been and start embracing life exactly as it is. And something extraordinary happens. Worry fades. Resentment fades. You start to see meaning even in your hardest moments.
Here's how you can use this in your own life. Whenever something painful happens, pause, breathe, whisper to yourself, amor fati. Then ask, how can this shape me? What can this teach me? How do I use this instead of letting it use me? And then you move forward, steady and focused. You'll notice something subtle but powerful. Worry turns into curiosity. Pain turns into wisdom.
even the worst moments start to feel like they're carving something strong inside you. This isn't shallow positive thinking, it's real strength. Because a person who learns to love fate, no matter how it shows up, becomes untouchable. Imagine living like that. Instead of wishing life was easier, you become tougher, wiser, more alive. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you start saying, "Try me." And life stops feeling like an enemy you have to fight. It becomes a teacher, one you can trust, even when its lessons hurt. So tonight, when things are quiet, try this. Reflect on your day. Face it fully without running. Then, as you think about the parts you wish were different, whisper to yourself, "This is my path. I will use it." Amor fati. Over time, these two practices, reflection and love of fate, work together. One grounds you in clarity so your mind stops spinning. The other frees you from resisting reality so your heart stops fighting what already is. And that combination turns you into someone calm, unshakable, and deeply alive. Not because life is easy, but because you've trained yourself to meet it like a warrior, with courage, wisdom, and an open heart. Number 5, master the art of premeditation. Let me ask you something. Have you ever lost sleep over something that didn't even happen? Of course you have. We all have. We play these imaginary horror films in our heads. A breakup, a job loss, public humiliation, illness. And suddenly our bodies react like the disaster is already real. The heart pounds, the stomach tightens, the worry consumes us. But the Stoics had a powerful way to deal with this. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca once said, "He robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand." Now at first glance, this might sound negative. Wait, you're telling me to think about bad things before they happen? Isn't that just worrying on purpose? But no, this is not about feeding fear. It's about preparing for life with calm eyes. When you calmly imagine what could go wrong, you rob those events of their power over you. You make peace with them before they even arrive. Picture a Stoic waking up in the morning. Before stepping out into the world, he asks, "What can go wrong today? What insults might I hear? What disappointments might come my way?" He's not doing this to wallow in dread. He's doing it to be ready. If he loses his money, his reputation, or even his health, he's already rehearsed his response. He's already decided to face it with dignity and strength. So how can you use this today? Before you walk into a big meeting, pause and ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen, and how would I handle it with grace? Before you make a risky decision, ask, if I lost everything, what would I still have inside me that no one can take away? Before you step out into your day, ask, what might test my patience today? Who might provoke me? And how will I respond like someone who's in control of themselves, not a slave to emotion? You see, worry thrives in uncertainty. It's the unknown that scares us. But when you walk into battle having already rehearsed it calmly in your mind, you become unshakable. Sure, you might still feel nervous. Stoicism doesn't make you numb, but you won't be dominated by that fear. You'll have rehearsed your dignity, your self-control, your inner calm, and that makes you stronger than 99% of people who stumble blindly into life hoping for peace, but preparing for nothing. Here's something practical. Tomorrow morning, before you even check your phone, take just 2 minutes. Close your eyes. Picture what might go wrong today, calmly, without drama. Then tell yourself, I am ready. Because that's what Stoicism does. It doesn't pretend bad things won't happen. It trains you to face them so they no longer control you. Number 6, daily reflection. Train the mind like a warrior. Picture this. It's the end of the day, and instead of grabbing your phone to scroll until your eyes are heavy, you sit in silence for just a few minutes. No judgment, no performance, just you asking yourself, how did I live today? This is not about beating yourself up. It's about understanding yourself, because most of our anxiety doesn't come from the future. It comes from the past we never process. Seneca once described how he would do this nightly. When the lights were out and the house was quiet, he would revisit every moment of his day, not to obsess over mistakes, but to learn from them. Think about how different that is from how we live now. Most of us try to outrun our thoughts. We distract ourselves. We move on to the next task, the next show, the next conversation, without ever stopping to ask, what actually happened inside me today?
How much of your worry comes from these unprocessed thoughts? Moments where you got upset, but never asked why. Times you acted out of fear instead of courage. Words you wish you could take back. Instead of carrying that heaviness to bed and waking up with it still there, imagine sitting down for just 10 quiet minutes and facing it like a warrior. The Stoics would ask themselves, did I act with courage today? Did I let someone else's behavior steal my peace? Did I live by my values? Did I say something I regret? And by doing this, they weren't just remembering events, they were rewiring their minds. Reflection isn't passive, it's training. It's how you catch patterns, understand what triggers you, and learn what lifts you up. Over time, this habit shapes you into someone unshakable. You become more disciplined with your emotions, less reactive, more rooted in who you really are. Here's how you can build this into your life. Every night, take just 5 to 10 minutes. Turn everything off, no screens, no music, no noise. Ask yourself 2 simple questions. What did I do well today? What can I do better tomorrow? Write it down if you can. Let your journal be your mirror. And if you had a bad day, good. Now you know where to grow. Worry multiplies when you run from your past, but it loses its grip when you face it calmly. Marcus Aurelius did this every night. His meditations were never meant for anyone else to read. They were simply his private training ground to stay humble, stay grounded, stay true. And what's the result of this habit? You go to sleep with clarity. You wake up with purpose, and your mind stops spinning because you've untangled the knots before bed. A person who is grounded like this doesn't get swept away by fear. Number 7, limit your inputs to protect your mind. Now let's talk about something most of us don't even notice is draining us. Be honest. How many times have you felt anxious, not because of anything actually happening in your own life, but because of what you saw, read, or heard? A scary headline, a toxic rant from a friend, a post on social media that made you feel like you're behind in life. If you're like me, you've felt that weight. And here's the truth, most of that stress isn't even yours. It's imported. You picked it up from someone else's chaos. The Stoics were deeply aware of this. Seneca, one of the wisest among them, warned, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. In other words, choose your company well. But today, it's not just people, it's everything we consume. Your mind is being fed constantly, whether you notice or not, and you cannot feed your mind garbage and expect to feel peace. That's why one of the most powerful habits you can build is this. Limit your inputs. Guard your mind like it's a temple. Be selective. Be intentional. Here's how. Unfollow social media accounts that make you feel insecure, angry, or constantly on edge. If you find yourself comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel, cut it off. Limit your news intake to 5 to 10 minutes a day. Choose your sources. Stop the endless scrolling because most of it is just noise designed to keep you hooked, not informed. Distance yourself gently but firmly from people who constantly complain, gossip, or dump fear into every conversation. I'm not saying you stop loving them, you just stop letting them set up camp in your head. Curate your digital and physical environment like a gardener who refuses to let weeds overrun the soil.
Fill your mind with wisdom, clarity, strength, not clutter. This isn't about being ignorant of the world. It's about preserving your inner energy for the things that actually matter. The Stoics believed your mind is like a garden. If you allow weeds to grow unchecked, they choke out everything good. And here's the deeper reason this works. Worry needs fuel. Starve it, and it dies. You don't have to react to every opinion you hear. You don't have to absorb every piece of bad news. You don't have to carry pain that isn't even yours to carry. A calm mind isn't a weak mind. It's a protected mind. So build a mental gate. With every new bit of information, ask yourself, does this strengthen me or weaken me? If it weakens you, it doesn't deserve your attention. Remember Epictetus again. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But what if your reaction is constantly being shaped by what you let in? Control the input, and you control the output. And when you control the output, you control your peace. Let this truth sink in. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. You get to decide what enters and what doesn't. Imagine carrying this affirmation with you today. I protect my mind like a warrior, because that's what you are. A warrior standing guard over your own peace, refusing to let the noise of the world steal your strength. These two principles, the control test and limiting your inputs, work like armor. They don't stop the battles of life from coming, but they make sure you step onto the battlefield prepared, calm, unshaken. When you live this way, you're not at the mercy of every storm or headline or rude comment. You stop being a leaf blown by the wind, and you start being the tree, rooted, steady, strong. So as we sit here, coffee cups emptying, let's pause and really take this in. You don't have to live exhausted from chasing control over the uncontrollable. You don't have to drown in the endless noise around you. You can choose where your energy goes. You can choose what you allow in. And when you do, your life doesn't just get quieter, it gets stronger.
Number 8, align your life with virtue, not results. You know, most of us spend so much of our lives chasing after results, thinking that if we just get that promotion, win that award, or earn that recognition, the worry will finally stop. But it never really does it? The moment you achieve one thing, your mind starts asking, what's next? Will people approve of me? What if I fail next time? It's like trying to fill a cup that has a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it never stays full. The Stoics saw this problem clearly centuries ago. They understood that results are fragile, unpredictable, and completely out of our control. You can do everything right and still lose. You can be honest and still be criticized. You can pour your heart into your work and still not get the applause you think you deserve. If you base your peace of mind on winning, you're building it on sand. But what if, instead of chasing results, you built your life on something solid? What if you aligned your choices with virtue, honesty, courage, discipline, kindness, rather than outcomes? The Stoics taught that this is the true path to peace. As Epictetus said, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. Think about what that really means. If you're living by your values, you already win, whether the world applauds you or not, whether the deal goes through or falls apart, whether people cheer for you or criticize you. If you acted with integrity, if you were true to yourself, then no failure can take away your peace. Worry is what happens when we anchor our worth to things outside our control. It grows when we fixate on money, fame, status, or approval. But peace, deep, unshakable peace, comes from knowing you did the right thing, even if no one noticed. Marcus Aurelius, the great philosopher-emperor, wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He didn't say, if it's not popular, don't do it. He didn't say, if it won't make you successful, avoid it. He said simply, do what is right, speak what is true. That's it. So how do you apply this in everyday life? It's simpler than you think, though not always easy. Before you make any decision, pause and ask, not will this make me win, but is this right? Before taking a big risk, don't ask, will I look foolish if I fail? Ask instead, will I grow regardless of how this ends? And when you're worried about what people think of you, ask, did I act with integrity? If the answer is yes, then you've already succeeded, because success isn't about applause, it's about alignment. You don't need to control what others think. You don't need to control the scoreboard. You only need to control your choices. Because when your soul is clean, your sleep is peaceful. And when your actions are guided by virtue, you no longer live in fear of judgment or failure. That's why Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus were never obsessed with ambition. They didn't want to be stars. They wanted to be strong. They wanted to be wise. They wanted to be simple human beings who did the right thing even when no one was watching. And isn't that the kind of life we all secretly long for? To know that no matter what happens, we stood for something true? That's real power. That's real freedom. You can't always control how life ends, but you can always control how you live it. That's why this shift is so powerful. Move your focus from attention to authenticity, from outcome to effort, from fear to virtue. When you do that, worry begins to fade. It can't survive when your peace doesn't depend on circumstances. Nothing disturbs a person who knows they lived with honor. If virtue guides your path right now, say it to yourself. I live by virtue, not fear. Because fear is sneaky. Worry is the thief of peace. It creeps in quietly, like a shadow at the corner of your mind. Then it grows louder, feeding on every doubt, every what if, until you find yourself lying awake at night, replaying conversations, questioning decisions, second-guessing your entire life. And for what? For things you can't even control. The Stoics knew the cure for that kind of anxiety wasn't to force the world to cooperate. The world is going to do what it does: spin, change, surprise you. You can't stop storms from coming, but you can train your mind to stay calm in the middle of them. You're not powerless. You're here to master yourself. Let the world chase fame. Let others panic about approval. Let them stress over likes and followers and headlines. You stay still. You stay grounded. You stay calm. That's what Stoicism really is. Not some dry philosophy in old books, but a living strength, a steady hand guiding you when everything around you feels uncertain. That's power. That's peace. And it's available to you right now if you're willing to let go of chasing results and start living by virtue instead. Because in the end, the scoreboard doesn't matter. What people say about you doesn't matter. Even success and failure don't matter as much as you think. What matters is whether you lived in a way that you can respect, whether you stood up for what's right, whether you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I did my best. I stayed true. That's how you get rid of worry. That's how you build a life no storm can shake. Because no one, not a critic, not a failure, not even bad luck, can take away a life lived with honor. And the beautiful thing is, you can choose this path today. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You just need courage. So say it with me now. I choose calm. I choose strength. I choose stoicism. Not because life will suddenly become easy, but because you will become unshakable. And when you're unshakable, you finally understand what real peace feels like.